This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
I'm only 23 right now, but I've already done 7 side hustles and 10 internships.
What? Okay.
It's just quite crazy in my opinion. But I think over the process of doing all of that, I really got very burnt out. I think I started questioning, like, why am I trying to increase my bank account number by so much and for what purpose? So I think when I started FIRE, or when we even started this campaign, it really got me to confront certain mindsets I had towards money. And I think that to me is really what FIRE means. It's never really about, I want to hit 30k by 30 or whatnot. To me, it's really about, what do I want to save for when I retire?
When I graduated from uni aged 23, retirement was the furthest thing from my mind. It was all about the next 40 or so years of work. I did not expect to even think about retirement or prepare for that eventuality until I was firmly in my 40s. But this mindset seems to be taking a back seat. Experts have said that it is never too early to lay up for retirement. And those on the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, start thinking of retirement even in their 20s. So, how early do people think about retirement? When do they start preparing for it? Hi, I'm Suen Tan, and you're listening to Headstart On Record. In the studio with me are 3 NTU students who will talk about what they and their peers in their early 20s think about retirement. Welcome to the show, Tina, Charmaine, and Aureen. Okay, so for each of you, when did you start thinking of retirement and how old were you then?
For me, it's only 23, which is my age right now. And I only started thinking about retirement after starting the campaign, when I realized that, there is actually people around me that has already started thinking, then maybe it's time for me to get started as well. Yeah, because for a long time, the only perception I have is I'm going to keep working till I can't anymore. I physically can't.
Okay. And how about the rest of you?
Actually, I started thinking about it when I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
really
Very young. Yeah.
Because my parents were telling my sister and I want to retire by 50. And then two of us were like, 50 at that age. So I think after they kept talking about retiring at 50, I started thinking about what can I do right now to actually make that future a reality for me too.
Oh, okay. So like you want to follow the same like trajectory as your parents in that sense?
Yes, in that sense.
Okay. So how about you, Aureen?
I think I got started on it when I came across this article that said that Singaporeans need at least 1.3 million to retire comfortably. And that really got me thinking, like, what amount do I need to retire and how do I get there as well?
Okay, but I mean, these are still all really young ages, right? Because I don't think I thought about retirement until I became a business journalist, actually. So definitely not in uni, definitely not in my first few years of work, because you guys haven't even started working and you already started thinking of like the time to stop working, right? Yeah, so that is quite early. I mean, is that like something common among your peers, or is that just for you because you were working on this project?
I think there's a rising trend of people who are like getting started on their retirement plans. Maybe not say they haven't started really planning towards it, but they've really started thinking about what their ideal retirement lifestyle is like. Like for me, I think personally, I think I would like to retire with about 3.4k per month kind of lifestyle. I think came across OCBC Financial Wellness Index, and then they said that maybe if you want to travel like regionally, maybe twice a year or so, this is about the amount that you need. Yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about also.
Okay, wow. So you like plan so far ahead, I guess, 50 years ahead maybe? Okay. Yeah. So why did you guys think of like doing your final year project on retirement in the first place?
Yeah, so I think this conversation actually came about when, we're just brainstorming ideas about our campaign, and the question that started is, so what are some pressing issues that youth are facing today? What are some of the common adulting questions that we have? And one thought is always, what's next after graduation? What do we do for our careers? We all want to achieve financial independence. We all want to stop working and start retiring. And that's when we went on Reddit, we did deep dives, we watched, interviews, and we find out that, FIRE is a goal that a lot of young people want to achieve these days, right? But are doing it in a slightly risky manner. So some of them might be very aggressive with their savings. So as a result, maybe they're neglecting some of their own well-being, or maybe they're putting aside some of their current, even wants or needs just to achieve FIRE. There is also the other group where maybe when it comes to investments, there's a lot riskier. So they will look into maybe high-risk investments just for the sake of wanting to grow their portfolio as big as possible and to get back the money in a short time. So we noticed that this actually can be quite dangerous, and maybe there needs to be a more sustainable practice of it.
Okay, because FIRE does stand for Financial Independence Retire Early, right? And I guess it advocates for a very extremely frugal lifestyle, for example, and also very aggressive hustling, maybe taking on multiple jobs. So is that something that you guys had thought about personally, or how did that come to bear in your own life, and that's why you wanted to work on this project?
Yeah, actually we have a hustle queen right here.
Oh wow, okay.
So actually, I'm only 23 right now, but I've already done 7 side hustles and 10 internships.
What? Okay.
It's just quite crazy in my opinion. But I think over the process of doing all of that, I really got very burnt out. I think I started questioning why am I trying to increase my bank account number by so much and for what purpose? So I think when I started FIRE, or when we even started this campaign, it really got me to confront certain mindsets I had towards money. And I think that to me is really what FIRE means. It's never really about I want to hit 30K by 30 or whatnot. To me, it's really about what do I want to save for when I retire.
Okay, what were some of the side hustles or jobs or internships that you did?
I have one that we talked about on our own podcast, which I shared, was that I was paid to lick envelopes.
Wait, what job is this?
And she was very young. She was 12.
Yeah, so it was a marketing campaign. So they wanted us to fill in calendars in the envelope and then mail it out. So then they had to pay someone to really just mail everything for them.
Okay, so you got your first salary when you were 12.
I did. And that was CPF.
Oh wow, this is truly the hustle queen.
she's
I'm
hustle queen.
super impressed. Okay. But how do you manage to do all these things while still being in school?
So I did a lot of part-time internships actually, even during my university education. And then during all my holiday periods, I think I used to make time to travel, yes, rest also, but also to hustle.
Okay, I mean, I guess that is quite rare really to, at such a young age, feel that, I need to store up so much money, right? Or kind of increase my bank account, which is something you don't really think about until I think you want to buy a house or start a family or buy a car. Yeah, okay. And I guess so for the rest of you, what was the impetus for you?
I think for my case, my clear goal right now is for my BTO. So my partner and I, we've been together for about 6-7 years. So this was our main consideration for saving up a lot of money. And while he's really started working, I'm still in school. So for me, I had to take on a lot of part-time jobs where I could still study at the same time. And also, I try to save up as much as possible because investments are quite risky, right? So I just threw a lot of my money into fixed deposits and started doing a lot of the smaller side hustles to get to where I was. And then to a point where I felt like I burnt out as well because I was eating cai fan almost every single day. And then I meal prepped until it was $2.80 per meal. So during my internship, there was a point where I felt like I cannot spend so much. So I started eating cup noodles in the office. It was
had
really
an Excel
tough.
sheet and it was very, very detailed. And anytime she exceeds the budget, then you feel quite bad about it.
Wow, okay. But is that a life worth living, to be honest? I mean, does it affect your social life and all that?
Yeah, I think it really affected my social life. I think some of my friends, it's gotten to a point where it's going out of their house is also spending money. So they would like it if people came to their house instead. So traveling out of their house is an inconvenience to them. It's an expenditure. And I think I also started to see things in such a calculative form that it kind of lost meaning, And I think I just broke down one day during a netball game. I was just in the middle of the court and just started crying.
Oh no.
And I gave up. I gave up then. But I think now it's about seeing how to do it sustainably and have a balanced approach to my finances.
Okay, so it's thinking about retirement, but not in a way that it's a huge rush, right?
Yeah.
That I need to achieve this amount in the next 5 years or something. And then because of that, you basically don't live the way that you should, right? The way that you can achieve your fullest joy or your fullest sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've already spoken quite a lot about retirement, but what age is your ideal retirement age?
I think for myself, it's actually sometime in my early 50s because I believe that will actually give me enough runway to build up my income so that by then maybe I can comfortably retire, I can pursue other passions that I want to do. And also I'll be healthy enough to still be able to travel and explore the world. And I think ultimately I do want to start a business. I know that goes against retiring, but if it's for a business that I'm really very passionate about, and I think it's not really working, but rather pursuing my dreams.
I guess it's also how we see retirement, right? If we see it as, that you can have the choice to maybe work an office job or not work an office job and then pursue like other hobbies, including setting up a business, then yeah, I mean, setting up a business also falls within like your retirement goal, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And for you?
I think similarly, I also want to retire in my early 50s. I think there are still quite a lot of things that I want to do and a lot of places that I want to see. And hopefully by then, I'm still quite healthy enough where I do not need a caretaker. Because I think one of the things that a lot of people don't consider when they think about their retirement is maybe like the additional cost, the medical costs, and also like the need for a caretaker when you no longer have full control over your body also.
But I think you also mentioned that you already have a partner and all that, right? So
Yeah.
if you plan to have a family, like would that shift your retirement goals?
Yeah, I think definitely it will shift. And I think that's why it's good to see retirement as not like an ultimate goal, but also something that can change and shape as our life changes also. Because there are some extreme cases where people stop. They don't even want to have kids because they think kids are a liability. Kids are very expensive. But you cannot really think of it that way. And yeah, I think it takes all the joy and fun out of life also.
Okay, and for Charmaine?
Actually, I share the same thoughts as Aureen also. Yeah, to me, retiring early, I never wanted to set an age to that because I thought that number would just stress me out way too much. So, and then life changes, like what Aureen said, you can have a family and all that. So to me, I never really set an age. But if I had to, it would be early 50s too.
Okay, I think you mentioned your parents want to retire at 50, right?
Yes.
So is that something that they're still going to do?
They have passed the age already.
Oh, okay. And are they retired?
No, they're not.
No,
yet.
they're not. Okay, does that change how you see retirement as well?
Not really, because I do respect the way that they really strived, and I understand that there were some sacrifices they had to make, like paying for my university education and my sisters also. So I think we are partially responsible for the reason they can't retire early.
Okay. So I think you guys have already spoken a bit about, saving money, being more frugal, eating economy rice, packing your own lunch and stuff like that. But right now, how are you preparing to retire at that ideal age of early 50s?
I think for myself, my main goal is actually to be more financially literate because I think opposite from both of them, the reason why I even wanted to start FIRE in the first place is when I realized, I have student debts to pay off, right? And I have to go in the real world now where I need to start thinking about income, my career progression. And I realized that I don't have enough understanding on investments at all, or like what's the best way to save, what's the best way to budget. So I think it's most important that I learn the basics to all the different investment tools, strategies, such that I can start planning early right now. So I think they always say, right, the younger you are, the better it is to start investments, due to compounding interest, or you have, more leeway to take more risks. So that's one thing I want to get started on. And then another thing is to definitely start building an emergency fund.
Okay, yeah. And I guess for you, like with your economy rise, is that something that's still continuing?
I think there's times where I can't really find a balance also. I think it is difficult after you've cultivated such a habit. But I'm more mindful also of when I decide to save money, it's like what is the purpose of it? And I think in the long run, definitely good to get started. And for me, it doesn't mean that I rush into investments because I know that my ultimate goal right now is just for a house. So I cannot play with such risks and look too far ahead that I forget what's important right now for me.
Okay. Do you still track on your Excel sheets?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, but not to the extent. I think previously it was like every single expenditure, and then if I exceed just by a little bit, then means next month I have to cut down even more so that it makes up. Because I like to see a surplus every month. Even though I have set targets, I always reach them, but I just want to hit it a bit more.
Oh, okay. So like the
Yeah.
overachiever kind of thing
Yeah.
when it comes to saving. Okay. So you do use Google Excel or do you use phone apps? Because there's also that discussion, right, of how to track your expenditure.
I think it's definitely dependent on your needs also. I think the Excel sheet works best for me. I use the Google one because I think there are more functions that you can use. And there are a lot of templates out there already. So you can kind of mix it and see what works best for you.
I think it's very important to have our strong financial foundation. So I think three of us actually are all like, we need a stable job right now, first and foremost. I think on top of that, for me, I'm still continuing some of my side hustles. So I still do caricature and a bit of drawing on the side also. And I think on top of that, I believe in budgeting for joy.
Yeah.
So on top of budgeting for all our expenditures, I believe that I need a joy or a recharge budget. So actually every month I have a budget that I say I'm allowed to use it on things that will fulfill me in my life. So if that is travel to JB or that is maybe pick up a new hobby, so that would be how I budget for joy.
Wow, okay. So how big is this budget for Joy actually?
It's actually right now 10% of my current salary.
Mm.
And actually, Charmaine is a very, very thrifty person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for her to have a budget for Joy is actually really very important.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe in a way that is good, right? Because you're talking about how like extreme saving does lead to like too
Burnout,
much
yeah.
stress, and
Yeah.
burnout from that, right? Even a mental breakdown over like having to
Yeah.
save like every single penny. So giving yourself that leeway through this budget for Joy is actually quite a good idea. Oh, okay. This is a new concept. I've never heard of it before actually. But thank you for introducing it to me. And so I think you've all talked about like your various personal strategies, but in the course of doing your project, what have you learned about how people are preparing for retirement at, this young age of like early 20s?
I think one thing that like we cannot discount is that CPF is very important in terms of our retirement fund. And I think that's something that not a lot of people have considered looking into. And even just like the 2025 budget is something that a lot of people think like I'm not there yet, in terms of my finances, but there's no harm in like starting now. And in terms of the CPF, you don't know what the different like OA, all the like basic retirement sum, all of that is. And it's good to kind of just push yourself there and then just take your time to get used to it.
That is interesting, that even at this age, you can start thinking about CPF and how to utilize it, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my peers are actually starting to look into insurance packages because they're starting to worry also, what if they, get chronic illnesses over time? What if there's certain accidents that happen, especially because they travel a lot. So travel insurance is, there's the topmost priority, but now we're also starting to look at life insurance. And I think also for a lot of my friends, retirement sometimes still feels very far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say they're still very focused on the FI part of things, like financial independence. The goal is really just build up as much income as possible. They have that wealth on standby such that whenever they want to call for retirement, they can do so.
Actually, do you think it is interesting that, the government talks about people living longer and raising the retirement age, but people actually want to retire younger, right?
Yes. I have a theory about that.
Oh, yes, okay.
I think it actually has to do with our perception of work. I think over time, maybe due to the hustle culture of Singaporeans, we start to see work mainly as a way to get more income, right? And maybe we start to blur the lines between what we really like to do when we start, passions versus career. And if we are thinking work purely for a source of income, source of money, then I think you are very likely to get burnt out, right? You'll be overworked because you're chasing for money at the end of it. But one advice that we got from one of our recent panel speakers is that finding value in what you do is very important. So it's not just about finding value in your work, but also thinking about how the things around you can create value for yourselves. So you can pursue, any job that you want as long as it brings you a bit of happiness or it helps you with your family, then go for it. Your side hustles, building up your hobbies is also a way to add value in your lives. And when you start to think of things in terms of value, not in a monetary sense, but happiness and joy, you actually don't get burnt out so easily.
Okay, and so that concept of retirement just shifts a bit, right? I think we already discussed that just now about how it is not just I sit at home and I watch K-dramas or whatever, but it actually means that you just have the choice. Okay. And so how have your, experiences or your daily life or your habits changed, from the time before you started thinking about retirement and money and like now when you guys are, thinking so much about, how much I will need so that I can retire, in my early 50s. I think, Tina, you mentioned on the website that you like to spend a lot of money on you're a capitalist consumer
I was
or something.
just going to admit that I think I have the biggest change. You guys can let me know, right? But basically, I've been starting to use budgeting apps, and that has been scary. Knowing how much I've been spending monthly. Now before I buy new skincare products, which is like my kryptonite, right?
Okay.
I will pause. I'll pause and say, okay, do I really need it right now? I'll wait to finish. I'll empty it first, then I'll buy a new one. Or actually, I'll ask a friend, hey, do I really need to buy 10 masks? Or can I just buy one? Yeah, so tracking my expenses is one thing. I also borrowed more books on financial literacy, like The Psychology of Money, or that. I've also been reading more financial blogs because I realized that, getting educated is really important. And there is so much resources out there for you that is also been simplified for beginners. Yeah, so right now I am really trying to groom myself to become much more stable with my money.
Okay, and for the rest of you?
I think for me, it's all about the balance. I think before all of this, I think when I was first 18, I heard about a robo-advisor.
Yes, yeah.
And then I wanted to grow my wealth, but I didn't really know how to. And I just thought it was like the easy way out. So I just channeled some money inside. about maybe 2,000, and then in the end, once I made a loss, I pull my money out and then I put it back in, and then it started climbing. And once I made $17, I pulled it out. But is this kind of like very small changes that make such a big impact? Then you realize actually maybe you're not ready for that risk. And maybe it's good to wait until you really know what you're doing before you actually jump into this kind of robo-advisors. Because maybe, yes, they simplify things a lot, but also it's dangerous if you don't have the knowledge to know what you're putting your money into.
Yeah, because they always say you should hold for the long term, right? In investing. Yeah. So I guess it's better to understand the product fully and then you put the money in and you just leave it there no matter what happens to it. Yeah.
I think it's hard for younger people to kind of have that mindset because your capital is also very little.
Yes. Yeah.
So every small change is like a big difference in your bank account. So I think, don't rush too much into it. I think it's something that's worth considering, like learning more about it before you jump into it.
And maybe like when you have a full-time salary, then you can put more money into it, right?
Actually, Aurin is like the biggest fan of fixed deposits. Like she has been drilling it in my brain this whole time. And then I was like, but I don't have that much income. I don't want to, lock it away. Yeah.
I think it's great. I think DBS, their minimum for fixed deposits is only 1,000. So it's great for a lot of young students who are just getting started, as opposed to like maybe OCBC because they need a minimum of 30,000. So that's like very unachievable for many young people. But I think the point of the fixed deposits is for you to help grow your wealth long term. And the point is that you can set your own like your maturity rate and how long it will take for it to grow. So for me, I do it yearly and then I try to max it out. So I think the max for DBS was like 20,000. So I did 1999.99. And then I really reaped the full benefits until like it matured. Then I just reset it again. Yeah.
But do you feel that you are locking away your money for like, for example, 12 months, right? That's pretty long.
I think it's definitely something you should consider if you have enough. You need to see how much emergency funds you have left behind and whatever is liquid. Because I think the liquid aspect is most important for young students where you really don't have much control over your money. It's more when the money is just doing nothing sitting in your bank and then you need it like to grow slowly in the long term, then you just put it in the fixed deposit.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. Yes, Charmaine.
Actually, mine is pretty similar to both Aurin and Tina's also, but I think I've just explored more avenues to invest. I think previously I was very, just T-bills, just Singapore government bonds, let's stay safe. But I think after really researching and understanding more about how there are many different ways to FIRE even, I think I started trusting robo-advisors maybe, and then also trying out like REITs and like stock market and other stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So does this also change the way that you will approach your job hunt? Because that's something that is like in the more immediate future, right? Thinking that you want to retire at this age, does it change the kind of jobs that you are looking at or maybe the kind of work life that you want to have? Like maybe have side hustles?
I think for me, definitely I will keep my side hustles on top of like starting the next job that I'm going to go in. I think it's all about balance though. It's whether you can really balance both your side hustles on top of the job that you're going to have in the future. Because I feel like if you can't commit to both, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree also. I think during my internship, I also did some of my side hustles, but I realized it was so draining for me because I had to manage that and then also my internship work and then my personal life also. So it got to a point where I felt like, this is too draining, but I'm too far into it to like pull out also. But I think it's also good to consider it and maybe it's good to look into more ad hoc kind of work.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say that I think this is a big struggle and something I'm still struggling with. I think because there is a lot of pressure on maybe your first job, right? It almost feels like it's going to set the tone for the rest of your career. It's going to open up like doors or what if you're trapped in one industry. So I've been talking to a lot of like mentors about it, and I think the advice they always give is to just try it out first. Doors open for you as you progress, and anytime when you're unsatisfied with your work, maybe it's time to move on. I think right now my struggle is also between pursuing what I really, really like that maybe offers slightly less pay, or maybe go for something that I'm good at, but I may not like as much, but it offers a much better pay. So there's the struggle between that. Yeah, like for example, I am a freelance coach. I actually teach like young children public speaking, mental resilience. But yet I'm not sure if I want to convert that into a full-time role, or maybe I want to find an office job where maybe there's like a better base salary and career progression is better. Yeah, so the truth is, I don't know.
Okay. So, I mean, you guys do have your retirement goals, but all these things will just shift along the way, right? Okay. Yeah. And I guess speaking of, your ideal retirement lifestyle, I think we had a glimpse of that already from some. So how much do you think you will need?
Wow. I think I would want at least 4K per month. But I know that's very difficult, right? I think Orin shared that the standard is like 3.4K.
Oh, it's not really a standard. I think they just classify into different tiers. There's like a 1.7, I think, K, then 3.4, and then 6K. Yeah, so it's dependent on what kind of lifestyle you really want. And for the one that I was looking at, it was like a regional travel. Then you can occasionally take ride-hailing apps. Kind of like a little bit of that comfortable life, but not too comfortable where it's just too unachievable. And I think just looking at that number is actually quite useful, because I think I was looking at how early I want to retire. Then I would give it about 30 years, right, after retirement before I, Then in that sense, it's about 1.2 million.
Yeah.
It's
So
kinda crazy.
how do you get that amount now, right?
Yeah. So I think it's good to look into like barista fire, which is after you've retired, you can also take on like be a barista, get some of that passive income. No, not really passive.
Hey, that's the one that I want.
Yeah, that's the good one. Like just actually I want to do like mama shop. I want to have a mama shop. So just sit down there.
So they want to
and then-
retire and all start their own business.
Yes.
Technically,
I want to be
yeah.
a home baker and a home chef, right? So those private chefs, they earn a lot of money.
Oh,
you just
yes.
host one
People's house.
dinner, right? Then maybe you pay $100 per pax just to have dinner. So my 4K can be very easily achievable. If I become famous, a good chef, and then just have a few families that come along.
Yeah, you could actually retire by 40 already at that rate.
Actually, I think so too.
Can lah.
Aspiration.
Yeah. So Charmaine, do you also want to be a chef or open a cafe?
Unfortunately, I just want my dog. I just want to retire with my dog beside me. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's like having a companion.
And how much do you think you will need a month then for that lifestyle?
Wow. Maybe 4 to 5K or so, considering.
Just to walk your dog.
the dog expenses so expensive.
Dogs are very expensive.
Yeah, dogs are very
That's
expensive.
so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys actually want quite a good retirement lifestyle, but also retire quite early.
Not too early.
I think we're very ambitious, actually. I think that's something we realize also. A lot of youths very idealized, expectations of retirement in the future. But when you really talk to them and you realize that actually we're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Set big goals and just get there.
Yeah, but I
Start
guess
small.
it's still good anyway, right, to think of it early. So even to look at things like maximizing your CPF or like, looking at the investments that you can make or savings, right? Because sometimes when you're young, before you've had a family or before you have like life plans, that's when you just spend all your money traveling, right? I mean, that's what I did.
Yes.
So yeah. Okay, so interestingly, we actually had an article out recently on micro retirement. So that is like the young people who are quitting their jobs to take maybe a year or two off just to do things that typically like older people will do in their retirement years. So like they go and farm overseas, they do volunteer work, maybe some of the things that you're talking about, right? Like doing some sort of like home cafe, for example. So do you think that that's a trend that you or your peers might be interested in?
I think definitely. I feel like for all of us right now, micro retirement is like a possibility. It may not be a definite goal, may not be a definite plan, but I feel like breaks in between our jobs are always very important.
I think it depends how long this sabbatical is also. Don't want it to get to a point where you're too comfortable with this already retired life where you can't really transition back into the workplace. And also not sure about how easy it will be once you've taken a break to come back and get hired again.
Right, yeah.
I
So
think
you're
that's something to
looking at all the
consider.
considerations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think this sabbatical idea is very attractive, and I suspect, okay, I'm not an expert, but I do believe it has something to do with burnt out. So actually I watched this Instagram reel just a few days ago, and then they were sharing about the different types of burnt outs, right? So one type is the overextension burnt out. This is basically when someone takes on too much on their plate and they just simply cannot manage the load anymore. The second kind is depletion burnt out. So this is when you actually aren't resting or recovering properly. And the third type is misalignment burnt out. So when there's a discrepancy between what you value and what you're spending your time with. So I believe, a lot of people who wanted to take sabbatical, maybe it falls into one of these burnt outs. I mean, of course, there's other reasons. And each type actually requires a very different solution. So overextension burnt out might mean that, okay, you need to learn to say no, setting more boundaries, right? Maybe you have to reject certain things. Depletion burnt out requires very active recovery. So maybe you need to find like exercises that you really love, hobbies, or maybe you like singing karaoke, then you have to do more of that. So you are resting while also doing what you love. And finally, for the misalignment burnt out is to take a step back and maybe realize, okay, what do you value in your next season of life? And it's time to move on. So I think sabbatical creates that space and opportunity to discover what you want to do. Take a breather. And when you come back, you might actually, who knows, you might even work harder, right? Because you are more aligned with the career that you want to have. And I think it's a very necessary break, especially in such a fast-paced Singapore that we have.
Yeah.
And I think if it's about the misalignment, I think it's not a bad thing that we have a lot of like SkillsFuture credits, right? That they keep pushing on us. And I think it's never too late to learn something. So even if you're already retired, like I'm sure you need something to fill your time. So it'll be good to pick on like classes, learn language, or like take up pottery, something nice also.
Right.
Yeah.
Lifelong learning movement is really very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool because it does sound like the mindsets have entirely shifted, right? Because, I guess in the past or typically people think of like, okay, I graduate from school, I work like for the next 30, 40 years of my life. And then when I'm in my mid-60s, now maybe even 70, I retire. And then after that, that's the end, right? And I just lie at home until the end. And like, I think you guys are opening out like such a different perspective of how like life can be. And even things like, the micro-retirement, the sabbaticals, that also opens up something else, right? In which like maybe you work at first, maybe you work quite hard in an office job, maybe that's not aligned to your passion. But then after that, you take time out to do the things that you like. Or like, as you guys say, you can work first and accumulate your cash and your funds. And then after that, you stop and then really pursue things that you like. And you still have like half your life ahead of you.
Yeah. And I think it's because of social media as well. Maybe we start to, increasingly we are more and more globalized. We see maybe other people, maybe in New York, right? They are like 30s and maybe they are farmers or, they're starting their own businesses. So then we start to have aspirations like this and we feel that maybe it's more feasible for us to act on it because if not now, then when? Right? But maybe our parents, maybe in the older generations, their priorities is maybe more on having a stable career, stable jobs, and, feed their family, feed their kids. But I think right now, a lot of youth today, we are very privileged enough to have that choice, to do what we want.
I think because we're edging out of the sandwich generation, we no longer have to think too much about our parents' finances. It's more about what are we going to do with our own wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like life looks different anyway, right? Even from this perspective. Okay. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Headstart On Record. Thank you, Tina, Aureen, and Charmaine. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
I'm Suen Tan. You can email us your thoughts on this issue or suggest another question you'd like to see me tackle next time on the show. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to read my articles and the Headstart newsletter, all these links are in our podcast show notes. This podcast episode is edited by Amirul Karim. Stay tuned then. Thanks for listening.
Send your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or within our Straits Times app. Thanks for listening. Do note, all analyses, opinions, recommendations, and other information in this podcast are for general information purposes only and are not intended to be relied upon as financial advice. You should not rely on them in making any decision. Please consult a fully qualified financial advisor or professional expert for independent advice and verification. To the fullest extent permitted by law, SPH Media shall not be liable for any loss arising from the use of or reliance on any analyses, opinions, recommendations, and other information in this podcast. SPH Media accepts no responsibility or liability whatsoever that may result or arise from the products, services, or information of any third parties. All opinions expressed by participants in this podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of SPH Media.